The velvet mask arrived at the Bastille on a September afternoon in 1698, carried in an unmarked carriage that bore no royal seal, no insignia, nothing to indicate the extraordinary cargo it contained. But everyone knew. The guards knew. The governor knew. All of Paris would soon whisper about the prisoner whose face no living soul was permitted to see. His name, if he even had one anymore, had been erased from every official record. His crime, if there was a crime, remained locked in the mind of King Louis XIV himself, and his face, that forbidden face, was hidden beneath a mask of black velvet reinforced with steel, locked with a mechanism so intricate that only 3 men in all of France knew how to remove it. I am telling you this story because it is perhaps the greatest mystery in French history, a secret so dangerous that it survived 3 kings, outlasted the men who created it, and has haunted historians for over 3 centuries. This is the true story of the man in the iron mask, and I promise you, the reality is far stranger than any fiction ever written about him. But to understand this mystery, we must go back to when the mask was still velvet, when the prisoner was still a man with a name, when the secret was still fresh enough to get you killed for speaking it aloud. The year is 1669, and France is at the height of its power. Louis XIV, the Sun King, sits upon the throne of the most magnificent court in Europe. Versailles glitters with gold and ambition. The nobility dances to the king's tune, and in the shadows, a secret is being born that will consume everyone it touches. Our story truly begins not in Paris, but in a fortress called Pignerol, high in the Alps near the Italian border. It is July, and the summer heat makes the stone walls sweat. The fortress governor, a man named Benign d'Auvergne de Saint-Mars, receives a letter sealed with the king's own signet. Saint-Mars is not a man given to nervousness, but his hands tremble as he breaks the seal. He has served the king for decades, has imprisoned enemies of the state, has kept secrets that would topple governments. But nothing has prepared him for what he reads in that letter. A prisoner is coming. Not a prisoner like the others currently rotting in Pignerol's cells, the disgraced nobles and fallen ministers whose names everyone knows. This prisoner is different. This prisoner is to be kept in absolute isolation. This prisoner is never to be seen by any other inmate, any guard, any visitor. This prisoner is to wear a mask at all times, even when alone, even when eating, even when sleeping if necessary. And most importantly, this prisoner must never, under any circumstances, reveal his identity. If he attempts to speak his name, if he tries to tell anyone who he is or why he is imprisoned, he is to be killed immediately. Saint-Mars reads the letter 3 times. He burns it in the fireplace as instructed, and then he begins making preparations for the arrival of the most mysterious prisoner in French history. The prisoner arrives on a moonless night in August. Saint-Mars watches from the fortress walls as the carriage approaches, surrounded by mounted guards who keep their distance as if the cargo inside carries plague. The carriage door opens, and a man steps out. He is tall, Saint-Mars notes, well-dressed in clothes that speak of nobility, though they are travel-stained and worn. His posture is straight, proud even, despite the circumstances, and his face, that forbidden face, is already covered, not with the iron mask of legend, not yet. That embellishment will come later, added by writers and dramatists who cannot resist making a good story even more dramatic. No, this mask is velvet, black as midnight, covering everything from forehead to chin. Only his eyes are visible through small openings, and in those eyes, Saint-Mars sees something that chills him. Not fear, not anger, even not despair. What he sees is resignation, the look of a man who knows exactly why this is happening to him and has accepted that there is no escape. The prisoner is led to a cell that has been specially prepared. It is not the dungeon where common criminals rot. This cell is in the fortress's tower with a window that overlooks the mountains. There is a bed with clean linens, a table, a chair, even a few books. It is a cell designed for a prisoner of quality, someone whose suffering must be exquisite rather than crude. Saint-Mars himself brings the evening meal. He has dismissed the guards, as instructed. No one else must see the prisoner, must hear his voice, must have any opportunity to learn his identity. As he sets the tray on the table, Saint-Mars tries not to stare at the mask, at the way it moves slightly with each breath the prisoner takes. "The mask," Saint-Mars says, his voice rough with discomfort. "You must understand. If you remove it, if you attempt to show your face to anyone, you will be executed. The king's orders are absolute." The prisoner nods slowly. When he speaks, his voice is cultured, educated, the voice of someone raised in the highest circles of French society. "I understand, Monsieur de Saint-Mars. I understand perfectly, better perhaps than you do yourself." "Who are you?" Saint-Mars asks, though he knows he should not. The question escapes him before he can stop it, born of a curiosity that will torment him for the next 30 years. The prisoner laughs, a sound muffled by the velvet. "That, monsieur, is precisely the question I am forbidden to answer. But know this, I am a man who saw too much, who knew too much, who existed when my existence became inconvenient to those in power. That is all anyone needs to know about me." Saint-Mars leaves the cell, locks the 3 separate locks that secure it, and returns to his quarters. He pours himself wine with shaking hands and tries to understand what he has just become part of. Who is this man? What did he see? What secret is so dangerous that it requires this elaborate imprisonment?
The theories begin immediately, spreading through the fortress like fever. The guards whisper when they think Saint-Mars cannot hear. The prisoner must be someone important, someone whose disappearance would be noticed if it were not handled with such care. The mask is not to protect others from seeing him, they reason, but to protect him from being recognized. But who? Some guards whisper that he must be a disgraced nobleman, someone who committed a crime so heinous that execution would be too merciful. Others suggest he is a political prisoner, someone who threatened the king's power. The boldest whispers, the ones that are quickly hushed, suggest something far more dangerous, that the prisoner is someone whose very existence contradicts the official story of the royal family. Saint-Mars hears all these theories and says nothing. He has his own suspicions, but he keeps them locked as tightly as the prisoner's cell. What he knows, what he has pieced together from fragments and implications in the king's letters, is that this prisoner is connected somehow to the highest levels of power, perhaps to the royal family itself. But knowledge without proof is just speculation, and Saint-Mars is too wise to speculate out loud. Days become weeks, weeks become months. The prisoner settles into a routine that would drive most men mad. He rises when the sun touches his window. He reads, if reading is possible through the mask's eye holes. He paces his cell, counting steps, measuring time by the movement of light across stone. He eats meals that Saint-Mars himself delivers, never removing the mask even to bring food to his mouth. He has learned to eat blind, by touch, pushing small pieces of bread and meat under the mask's lower edge. Saint-Mars watches this and feels something he did not expect. Pity. Whatever this man did, whatever secret he carries, the punishment seems almost worse than death. To live, but never show your face. To breathe, but never speak your name. To exist in this liminal space between being and non-being. But pity is dangerous for a prison governor. So Sanmar buries it and continues his duties. The year turns. 1670 becomes 1671. The prisoner remains healthy, surprisingly so given the restrictions. He exercises in his cell, maintains his dignity, treats Sanmar with unfailing courtesy. And slowly, despite the mask and the silence and the mystery, a strange relationship develops between prisoner and jailer. Sanmar finds excuses to visit the cell more often than necessary. He brings better food, better wine, new books. He sits sometimes in the chair across from the prisoner and they talk, careful conversations that dance around the one topic that cannot be discussed. They speak of philosophy, of history, of the state of France and Europe. The prisoner's knowledge is vast, his understanding of politics and power sophisticated. Whoever he is, he was educated at the highest levels.
And St. Mars notices something else. The prisoner never asks for mercy, never begs to be released, never pleads his innocence, never claims that his imprisonment is unjust. It is as if he accepts that this is his fate, as if he understands that the secret he carries is worth more than his freedom, perhaps even more than his life. This acceptance troubles St. Mars more than protests would. A man who knows why he is imprisoned, who agrees with the necessity of his own suffering. What kind of man is that? What kind of secret justifies such sacrifice? In 1672, another prisoner arrives at Pignerol. His name is Nicolas Fouquet, once the superintendent of finances for Louis XIV, now disgraced and convicted of embezzlement. Fouquet is a name everyone knows, a fall from grace that has shocked all of France. He is kept in a different part of the fortress, far from the masked prisoner. But his presence changes something, because Fouquet knows everyone. He knows every secret at Versailles, every scandal, every hidden connection between the powerful families of France. And St. Mars begins to wonder, does Fouquet know who the masked prisoner is? And if he found out, what would that knowledge mean? St. Mars doubles the guards around the masked prisoner's cell. He institutes new protocols. The prisoner must wear the mask at all times, even when he sleeps. The eye holes are made smaller, limiting his vision. No one but St. Mars himself may enter the cell, and even he must never be in a position where the prisoner could remove the mask and reveal his face. The prisoner accepts these new restrictions without complaint, which only deepens the mystery. Years pass, the prisoner remains. France changes around him, but inside the fortress walls, time seems suspended. The prisoner becomes almost mythical among the guards, a ghost story they tell to new recruits. Have you seen the masked man? He's been here 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. No one knows his name. No one has seen his face. He is the secret that France cannot forget and cannot reveal. St. Mars receives promotions, is transferred to other fortresses, and every time he moves, the prisoner moves with him. In 1681, St. Mars becomes governor of Aix-les, another fortress prison. The masked man is transported there in the middle of the night, in a closed sedan chair so no one can catch even a glimpse of him. In 1687, St. Mars is appointed to the island fortress of Sainte Marguerite. Again, the prisoner follows. This is when the legend truly begins to spread beyond the prison walls. People notice that wherever St. Mars goes, there is a special prisoner, a man whose identity is so secret that extraordinary precautions surround him. Rumors spread through France. The prisoner is a twin brother of the king. The prisoner is the real father of Louis XIV. The prisoner is a minister who learned state secrets. The prisoner is no one,
a commoner who happened to see something he should not have seen.
None of these rumors are quite true, but none are quite false either. By 1698, Saint-Mars has been promoted again, this time to the highest position a prison governor can achieve, governor of the Bastille in Paris. It is an honor, a recognition of 30 years of loyal service, but it comes with a condition. The masked prisoner must come to Paris as well. This is a problem. The Bastille is not some remote fortress in the mountains. It sits in the heart of Paris, surrounded by thousands of people, visited by officials and inspectors, impossible to keep completely secret. How can Saint-Mars maintain the mystery of the masked prisoner in the most public prison in France? The answer is to make the mystery itself so notorious that no one dares investigate it. Saint-Mars allows rumors to spread. He lets guards talk about the special prisoner in the tower. He permits the nobility to gossip about the man whose face must never be seen. But he also makes it clear, through channels both official and unofficial, that anyone who tries to learn the prisoner's identity will face the king's wrath. And so the prisoner is brought to the Bastille in September 1698 in that unmarked carriage I described at the beginning. He is installed in a tower cell, comfortable but isolated, guarded day and night by men who have been carefully selected for their loyalty and discretion. Paris buzzes with speculation. Who is the man in the mask? What did he do? Why is his identity so dangerous? The theories grow wilder. He is the Duke of Monmouth, illegitimate son of England's Charles II. He is Molière, the playwright, whose death was faked. He is the twin brother of Louis XIV, hidden away to prevent a succession crisis. He is an Italian diplomat who learned too much about French military plans. He is a valet who overheard the wrong conversation. He is everyone and no one. But in his cell in the Bastille, the prisoner remains silent. He has been wearing the mask for nearly 30 years now. It is part of him, inseparable from his identity, in a way that is both horrifying and strangely appropriate. Who he was before the mask no longer matters. He has become the mask, become the secret, become the mystery that has consumed his life. Saint-Mars visits him every day. They are both old men now, prisoner and jailer, bound together by a secret that neither fully understands. They play chess. They discuss philosophy. They avoid, always, the one topic that matters, until one day in 1703, when everything changes. It is November, and Paris is cold. Saint-Mars climbs the tower stairs to the prisoner's cell, bringing the evening meal, as he has done for 34 years. He opens the 3 locks, enters the cell, and finds the prisoner sitting in his chair, hands folded in his lap, the velvet mask still in place. But something is different. The prisoner is not breathing. Saint-Mars approaches slowly, dread building in his chest. He reaches out, touches the prisoner's shoulder. The body is still warm, but utterly still. The prisoner is dead, taken by a sudden illness, or perhaps simply by exhaustion, by the weight of carrying a secret for more than 3 decades. Saint-Mars stares at the masked face and realizes that in death, there is finally an opportunity to solve the mystery. He could remove the mask now. The king never specifically forbade it after death. He could finally see the face that has been hidden for so long, could finally know who this man was. His hands move toward the mask's fastenings, and then he stops. Because Saint-Mars understands something that we, looking back across centuries, might not. The mystery was never really about who the prisoner was. It was about what the mystery itself represented. It was about power, about the ability of a king to erase a man so completely that even death could not reveal his identity.
It was about fear, about maintaining a secret so perfectly that the truth became irrelevant. If Sanmar removes the mask, if he learns the identity, he becomes dangerous. He becomes someone who knows, and people who know things they shouldn't tend to disappear in Louis XIV's France. And so Sanmar does not remove the mask. Instead, he calls for the guards. He orders the body to be buried immediately, that very night, in an unmarked grave in the church of St. Paul. He instructs that the cell be completely cleared, every piece of furniture burned, every possession destroyed. The pewter plates the prisoner ate from are melted down, the linens are burned, the books are thrown into the fire, and the mask is buried with him. Within days, it is as if the prisoner never existed. There are no official records of his death. No name in the burial register, the grave marker is blank. Even the cell number is changed, as if to erase any trace of his presence. But secrets, real secrets, have a way of surviving. The guards talk, the servants gossip, the nobles who heard the rumors share them with their friends. And slowly, the story spreads beyond France, beyond Sanmar's control, beyond even the king's ability to suppress it. Writers begin to incorporate the masked prisoner into their works. Voltaire, in his book Les siècles de Louis XIV, published in 1751, mentions the prisoner and adds his own embellishments. He claims the mask was made of iron, not velvet, making the image more dramatic. He suggests the prisoner was a twin brother of the king, creating a succession crisis that never actually existed. Alexandre Dumas, in his novel The Vicomte de Bragelonne, published in 1850, takes Voltaire's hints and creates the version of the story most people know today. The Iron Mask, the twin brother, the elaborate plot to switch the king. It is thrilling fiction, a perfect adventure story.
But it is not truth. So what is the truth? Who was the man in the iron mask? Historians have debated this for 3 centuries, and we still do not have a definitive answer. But we have clues, fragments of evidence that suggest possibilities, each more intriguing than the last. The most credible theory, the one supported by the most historical evidence, is that the prisoner was a man named Eustache d'Auger. He was not a noble, not a prince, not anyone of particular importance. He was a valet, a servant in the household of Cardinal Mazarin, the man who essentially ruled France during Louis XIV's childhood. But being unimportant is precisely what made d'Auger dangerous. Because valets see everything. They are invisible to the powerful people they serve, moving through rooms where secrets are discussed, handling letters that should remain private, overhearing conversations that could topple governments. What did d'Auger see or hear? We can only speculate, but historians believe it involved some combination of financial corruption and sexual scandal at the highest levels of government. Perhaps he learned about Mazarin's embezzlement from the royal treasury. Perhaps he witnessed something involving the Queen Mother, Anne of Austria, who had an extremely close relationship with Mazarin that scandalized the court. Or perhaps, and this is the theory that makes the most sense when you consider the extreme precautions taken, d'Auger learned something about Louis XIV's legitimacy itself. There were always rumors that Mazarin was more than just Anne of Austria's minister. What if d'Auger could prove those rumors? What if he had evidence that Louis XIV, the Sun King, the absolute monarch who claimed to rule by divine right, was actually the son of a cardinal and not the late King Louis XIII? Such knowledge would destroy not just Louis XIV, but the entire foundation of French monarchy.
It would make the king illegitimate, his children illegitimate, the entire line of succession invalid. It was the kind of secret worth protecting at any cost, the kind of secret worth burying a man alive to preserve. So Daugère was arrested, quietly, in 1669. He was imprisoned, masked, forbidden to reveal his identity, and he spent the next 34 years carrying a secret that he could never tell, a secret that died with him in that cell in the Bastille. But there are other theories, other possibilities that historians continue to debate. Some believe the prisoner was not Daugère at all, but a man named Ercole Mattioli, an Italian diplomat who betrayed Louis XIV during negotiations over the fortress of Casale. Mattioli promised to sell the fortress to France, but then reneged on the deal, humiliating Louis and costing France a strategic military advantage. The king's rage was legendary. Mattioli was kidnapped by French agents, smuggled across the border, and imprisoned. The mask would serve to hide his identity from other prisoners and prevented diplomatic incident with Italy. This theory has the advantage of explaining the timing and the location. Mattioli disappeared in 1679 and would have been imprisoned at Pinerol around the time Saint-Mars was governor there. But it doesn't fully explain the extreme precautions, the absolute secrecy, the decades of imprisonment. Betraying the king was serious, but was it serious enough to justify such extraordinary measures? Others suggest the prisoner was a nobleman named Charles of Lorraine, Duke of Mayenne, who was involved in various plots against Louis XIV. Or possibly a man named Vivien de Boulogne, a military commander who disobeyed orders during a campaign and was disgraced. Or even James de la Cloche, an alleged illegitimate son of England's Charles II, who might have been imprisoned to prevent him from making claims on the English throne. Each theory has evidence supporting it. Each has been argued by serious historians with access to archives and documents, and yet none of them can be proven definitively, because the one piece of evidence that would solve the mystery, the prisoner's face, was hidden for his entire imprisonment and buried with him in an unmarked grave that has never been found. This is the genius of the mystery, you see. Louis XIV and Saint-Mars created a secret so perfect that even 300 years of historical research cannot definitively solve it. They understood that sometimes the best way to hide something is not to bury it completely, but to surround it with so much mystery and speculation that the truth becomes impossible to distinguish from the legends. And perhaps that was the point all along. Perhaps the man in the iron mask was never about one specific secret, but about demonstrating the power of the French monarchy to control reality itself. To take a man, erase his identity, hide his face, and turn him into a legend that would outlive everyone involved. If that was the goal, it succeeded magnificently. Today, the Bastille is gone, destroyed during the French Revolution. The fortress at Pinerol still stands, but has been converted to other uses. The island fortress of Sainte Marguerite is a tourist destination, and you can visit the cell where the masked prisoner was once held. There is even a museum dedicated to the mystery, displaying artifacts and documents related to the case. But the prisoner's true identity remains unknown. His grave has never been found. The original mask, if it even survived, has long since crumbled to dust. All we have are theories, speculation, and the enduring mystery of a man who was buried alive behind velvet and steel. What makes this story so compelling, what has kept it alive in the public imagination for over 3 centuries, is not just the mystery of who the prisoner was. It is what the mystery represents. The ultimate secret, the perfect crime, the conspiracy so successful that even history cannot fully expose it. We live in an age where we believe everything can be known, where archives are digitized and DNA can be extracted from centuries-old remains. We believe that given enough time and technology, all secrets will eventually be revealed. The Man in the Iron Mask reminds us that this is not always true. Some secrets are kept so well that they become permanent mysteries, tantalizing gaps in our knowledge that can never be filled.
And perhaps that is appropriate. Perhaps some secrets deserve to remain secrets, not because they are sacred, but because they remind us of the limits of our knowledge and power. The Man in the Iron Mask lived his entire adult life as a mystery, died as a mystery, and remains a mystery to this day. In a strange way, that is a more complete victory over time and death than any monument or biography could provide. His name is forgotten, but he is immortal. His face was never seen, but he is known throughout the world. He was the most completely erased prisoner in history, and yet his story has been told and retold countless times. The very act of hiding him so perfectly ensured that he could never be forgotten. That is the final irony of the Man in the Iron Mask. In trying to make him disappear completely, Louis XIV in San Mars created perhaps the most famous prisoner in history, a mystery that has outlasted the monarchy that created it, outlasted the men who kept the secret, outlasted even the reasons why the secret existed in the first place. So who was he? Was he Eustache d'Auger, the valet who knew too much? Was he Ercole Mattioli, the diplomat who betrayed the king? Was he some other forgotten soul whose story has been completely lost to time? We will probably never know for certain. The secret died with San Mars, with Louis XIV, with everyone who knew the truth. But the mystery lives on. And in a world where everything seems knowable, where privacy is nearly impossible and secrets rarely last, there is something strangely comforting about that. The Man in the Iron Mask proves that some mysteries can survive, that some secrets can be kept, that the past still holds questions we cannot answer no matter how hard we try. 300 years later, he is still watching us from behind that velvet mask, still keeping his secret, still refusing to reveal his face. And we are still trying to solve the puzzle, still debating and theorizing and searching for evidence. He won, in the end. The prisoner behind the mask kept his secret better than anyone could have imagined. And now, centuries after his death, we are all still trying to figure out what it was. That is the true mystery of the Man in the Iron Mask, and it is a mystery that may never be solved.